All right, so now let's go from one crime to another. This one's a little more crazier. Remember, we came on here before and we talked about Jacob Zeben Hood and his husband, who there was like once we found out, like you said, the husband was found dead, slumped over the toilet in the apartment in Harlem, and the husband is currently in prison. I don't think he's been charged with anything as of yet, but there was all this drama going on with that, and now we have more stuff that has come out courtesy of like interviews they did with like the Daily News and things of that nature. So let's get into it. So, fitness trainer and social media influencer Jacob Zeben Hood, who bled to death in the bathroom of his Harlem apartment from stab wounds to his leg, was frequently seen with black eyes and a bruised nose at a Manhattan gym where he worked in the months leading up to his tragic death. Multiple longtime colleagues of the victim recently revealed. Now, here's the thing: if you go into work in the city, like sometimes when I be seeing guys outside with a black, I'm like, they probably was drunk, they probably fell, got into a fight in the street for popping off. But sometimes you don't be thinking about, yeah, it could be a DV type situation. And if he's going to work and not using, now, first of all, you a fitness influencer, he not using concealer to cover up the black eyes, whatever the case is. If you're seeing this type of thing, why wasn't authorities hit up? Why did they hit up the authorities? Why wasn't it anybody trying to step in and do what they could? I guess maybe if the person's not willing to receive the help, then there's only so much that you can do. So shout out to NBC News for this story. So it said Jacob Zeben and Jacob Paulson. Jesus Christ, they all got the same name. Sorry. It said Jacob Zeben and Jacob Paulson were fast friends when they met in 2013. Aside from their shared name, the pair were both young homosexual men fresh out of college who recently moved to New York City. Now, after 2 years spent glued at the hip, Paulson said their dynamic quickly changed after his friend and personal trainer from Texas started dating model Donald Hood. Donald Hood is the one that's in jail. And that's the one that is in the back. The one in the front that you see is unalive. He said he just vanished. This is what Paulson said this week in a phone interview, choking up. I had no contact with him, and I just wanted him to be happy, and that's all I really cared about. And I was hoping that he was. Now, although the loss of the friendship stung, Paulson said he moved on years ago. He didn't attend his former friend's 2020 wedding and was only aware from social media that Jacob and Donald both changed their last names to Zeben Hood. But Paulson was shocked and flooded with memories when just 2 weeks ago he saw his former friend's name in the headlines after police found the 34-year-old unalive inside his Harlem apartment. When authorities entered the apartment on July 31st after Donald called for help, they found Jacob slumped over a toilet with a gash on his head and multiple stab wounds in the back of his leg, one deep enough to penetrate muscle, according to charging documents. His death came after years of alleged abuse dating to 2022, detailed in a series of charging documents against Donald on felony counts, including strangulation and menacing. Those charges remain pending. Now, Donald, a 40-year-old model with over 67,000 Instagram followers, was arrested on July 31st and charged with several crimes, including burglary. He is currently being held at Rikers without bail. Prosecutors have not charged anyone with murder or named a suspect for Jacob's death, citing his pending autopsy, but said that they are investigating the case as well. That's what it is, because there's been years of back and forth assault where they've been fighting. And Donald's been putting hands on Jacob, and Jacob's been showing up to work with black eyes and a bloody nose, or whatever the case is. He's been showing the evidence on his face and kind of just like, oh, like, it's fine, it's whatever, I'm used to it. And then it comes down to the situation where the police enter the apartment, and Donald was found with bite marks and all this other stuff. Those seem like those are defensive wounds that was probably happening because he had made a phone call to his father, as we had talked about prior, and said that Jacob was on the phone with his father and heard Donald in the background, like telling him, like, oh, he's trying to get to me or whatever. In the apartment, he's breaking into the apartment, he's trying to kill him or whatever the case is. And then and then Donald's in the background yelling all kinds of slurs. So if you say all of this, that's evidence that maybe you didn't intend to kill him, but eventually, when you put enough pause on somebody, you don't know how that's going to turn out based off your temper. If that one little punch or whatever the case is going to be the last. And when you pick up a knife, what do you expect it's supposed to do? Convert, like argue him down or whatever? Like, if you picking up a knife, somebody going to get stabbed with it. Now, in the days since his death, Paulson and 7 others knew Jacob spoke with NBC News as they slowly learned about the personal trainer's life over the last decade. And while his fatal stabbing comes as a shock, those who knew Jacob believe Donald cut out his friends and potential lifelines years before he truly needed them. And that's where it starts, when people have to realize with the abuse. First, they start to get you to ostracize yourself, your friends, family members. So you are the only one that they are solely dependent on. And when you need that help, you've pretty much cut them out. So now you feel there's a bit of shame. Oh, I don't want to burden them. I've cut all these people out. So if I call them, they're going to feel like, what do you want? Why you hit me up? And we can get superficial in that way. But if they were your true friends, even if I haven't spoken to you in years and something happened to you or whatever the case was, if any one of my friends was to call me up that I haven't really been kikiing with in a long time, that kind of cut me out, I'm like, you know what? I'll pick up the phone and see what's going on, because you never know what situation that person is going through. That's just how I am. But everybody ain't me, I have to realize. So I wish I had done more, but in hindsight, what would you do? This is what Jacob's old friends Marty Goo Cummings, by the way. For those who don't familiar who Marty G. Cummings is like a political drag queen out of New York City. So when I saw Marty, I was like, Marty? But so it said Donald's attorney declined to comment. Now, after studying biomedical sciences at Texas A&M University, Jacob moved to NYC in 2013 and quickly met Paulson and Joshua Baker. Paulson and Baker said that the trio never went anywhere without each other and spent endless days cooped up in Jacob's Hell's Kitchen apartment, which they say overlooks Central Park, playing video games, eating fried food, and daydreaming about their futures, saying we were these cute little misfits that were trying to figure out where we fit in New York society. Well, child, first of all, you lived in Hell's Kitchen, so need we say more? Cummings met Jacob around the same time and gravitated towards his selflessness and desire for community. A prominent New York City drag queen who uses they, them pronouns, Cummings said Jacob would frequently walk them between gigs late at night to make sure they got there safely, saying he was a protector, which is why I think it makes the whole thing sadder, Cummings said. He didn't get to be protected from this. So it's like, and that's what I always say, you got to check on your strong friends too, because even those who are protectors need protection. And I think a lot of times people always think the strong friends are always on it. And a lot of times, no, that's not always the case. So yeah, check on your strong friends. Now, Lauren Foster, a friend of Donald since 2000, described him as a good guy and said that she was never under the impression that his relationship was troubled. She did, however, acknowledge that the roles Jacob and Donald played were clear, saying, I don't think he had a ton of friends, Foster said of Jacob. Don was kind of the alpha in the relationship. There was always one person that's dominant in the relationship, and that was definitely Don, she added. I think Don would be the alpha in any relationship. He's larger than life. Now, Baker said that shortly after Jacob met Donald in the spring of 2015, Jacob began dodging invitations, declining phone calls, and ignoring text messages. Soon, Baker noted, Jacob started to even block his friends' phone numbers. Now, Jonathan Starkey, a friend from Texas, recalled that in one conversation around that time, Jacob said that a lot had changed and that Donald was a little possessive and jealous and kind of restricted who he was in touch with, saying Jacob was really someone who wasn't really someone who let people tell him what to do, which is why it's so strange. Jacob's abrupt silence prompted Baker to reach out to Donald, saying Jacob is doing well. You reached out to the wrong person, because if Donald is the one that's trying to isolate Jacob from a lot of his family and friends, of course he's going to be out here and say Jacob's doing very well, which is what he said. And this is what he wrote to Baker in a November 5th, 2015 direct message on Facebook, according to screenshots of the conversation provided by NBC News. He decided to break away from his past, which unfortunately included his closest friends, in order to move forward with a healthy life. He's been very focused and is back on the right track in his life, and in order to remain focused, he will remain out of contact for the moment. So yeah, when you have someone that's trying to ostracize you for people and want you totally cut to him, this is what they're going to do. And you reaching out to him, that was the last person you should have reached out to. But what would they know? They didn't know any better. They just thought, like, I can't reach him, let me reach out to his band because he cares about him. So that's probably from the point of view that they were looking at it. Now, for years, the only updates Jacob friends received about their friend came through social media, where images of the couple's Instagram showed what appeared to be a happy couple who traveled the world and lived a glamorous New York life. The pair posted loving selfies, pictures from their wedding in 2020, and snapshots with their families, which is the Matrix aspect, which is I'm only going to show you the good and the glam and all that other stuff. But beneath, behind the scenes, the things you don't see, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of physical, there's a lot of mental, a lot of emotional abuse that's going on behind the scenes. But court documents paint a prolonged pattern of alleged abuse in the relationship that authorities say started in 2022. Prosecutors said the charging documents filed under Jacob's death that Donald had 9 domestic incident reports filed against him since 2022, but did not provide more details about the nature of the incidents or who filed them. In November 2024, an order of protection was issued in New York County Criminal Court that directed Donald to cease communication and stay away from Jacob, according to charging documents associated with Donald's arrest in February. In February, Donald was arrested and charged with strangulation, among several other charges, for allegedly attacking Jacob inside the Harlem apartment. Jacob almost lost consciousness and sustained swelling, substantial pain, and redness to his neck from the incident, according to the charging documents. Donald pleaded not guilty to the charges in the case that's still pending. A second court order of protection was issued in criminal court in April, which once again prevented Donald from seeing or communicating with Jacob. Donald was arrested again in June and charged with criminal contempt and menacing, according to court documents. The court records allege that Donald held a knife in Jacob's direction and said, "I will attack you." He pleaded not guilty to the charges and the case is still pending. Well, not anymore, because apparently he used the knife to take his life, apparently. So why is it still pending? Now, Paulson said that earlier this year, Jacob followed him on Instagram and gave him hope that the friends might reconnect after a brief exchange in March. So it could have been that after the restraining order and all that, the court order protection and all the other stuff, that he was slowly trying to work his way back into regaining a lot of those friends that he had cut off. And unfortunately, that just didn't get to happen. Now, he said, "I was excited to have that prospect of him coming back into my life after I kind of let him go as a friend." This is what Paulson said. "And then to have it really just permanently end, it's just devastated me. It's really wrecked me." Now, Donald called 911 on July 31st of Jacob's one-bedroom apartment at West 138th Street and told them he found his husband dead on the toilet. When police arrived, they found Donald sitting on the couch with 3 cuts to his arm that later required stitches, a black eye, and bite marks, according to a criminal complaint. He told authorities that Jacob had attacked him. Well, I could have sworn that if there was a court order of protection, why are you in the same apartment? So, however, prosecutors said that Jacob called his father from the bathroom before the attack and allegedly told him that Donald was coming at him with knives and preventing him from leaving the apartment. According to the criminal complaint, during the call, Jacob's father allegedly heard Donald screaming derogatory names at Jacob in the background, which is what I was telling y'all earlier. Donald was arrested later that day and charged with burglary, aggravated criminal contempt in the first degree, and possession of a weapon. On Thursday, he was scheduled to appear in court, but a judge waived his appearance at the request of his attorney. He is now set to appear on September 12th, almost a month after Jacob's funeral, scheduled for this weekend in San Antonio, Texas. Now, as authorities continue to investigate the case, Jacob's friends have been connecting and sharing old memories of their late friend, saying years can go by, but he was our family to the end. So shout out to all of Jacob's friends. You know, if this is a way that y'all can bond and come together in a way, then that's good. If it helps, like, mourn a lot of the friend that you feel like, you know, what could you do? You try to reach out, you wanted to be that friend to him, but it's hard to get through people when you're in love, you're in your love bubble, and when you're also experiencing abuse. A lot of times men don't want to admit that, you know, they're the strong one, but they're also being abused by their boyfriend and they're going through something, or their husband, and they're trying to work things out. But then you always want to focus on the good times. And I've always said this, it takes a person a whopping 7 times before they finally leave that person. I don't know how many times it's been where he's gone through things before he would have gotten to his breaking point, being like, "I'm done with you," or whatever the case is. Maybe this was it, that this was the time. But Donald probably was in a place of, if I can't have you, then nobody else can. And the jealousy, the emotional, the insecurity of, whatever he's going through got the best of him. And now look at you. Your ass is going to be locked up. And I don't think you're getting out anytime soon. So even when they do sentence or whatever the case is, you get your charges fully read down to you, that you're going to be in jail for a long ass time. So, sir, make sure you get that good dush, because you're going to be dropping the soap plenty of times behind bars. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story? I will definitely keep abreast of this crazy crime as it develops. But this is unfortunate. Like, if there's any of you out here that's dealing with any kind of, excuse me, any kind of abuse, I was trying to say if I had any of, oh yeah, domestic violence. So if you're undergoing any kind of DV type of situation, there's definitely places out there for you to get the help. I don't like people like I don't like people, but I don't like people that, I don't understand the whole putting your hands on people or act like they're your property or any kind of abuse. I don't like that, any of that stuff. Like that really, I can't stand a bully. I can't stand people that put hands on people because they can't solve the issue with just conversation. So yeah, this story was just like sad and unfortunate. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out here, because I've been seeing a lot of videos of DV type situations where some of you adult performers or influencers, where y'all be posting y'all stuff. Nico Aesthetics has done a lot of DV videos regarding same-sex couples, where he's been posted on his shows. And this is like, seeing stuff out here, it is very much prominent within the LGBTQ plus community, where you're dealing with, and I've been hearing stories about, there was this lesbian that killed her partner and stole her identity, and she was charged like years later for the whole, like, it's a lot of crazy stuff going on out in these streets between the LGBTQs and a lot of the abuse that's prominent within our community. So yeah, this is definitely something that needs to be talked about. It's not just the straights that's dealing with this stuff. It's people in our community too. And a lot of it goes underreported, or even when it goes reported, I don't see like, what is the NYPD or all these other people doing about it? Because I feel like a lot of them don't even take same-sex DV seriously. So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.